Hey listeners, Mallory Wilsey here, Chief Producer of the Enrollify Network. I get the privilege of working alongside all of our creators at Enrollify, but I wanted to take just a quick moment to tell you about why I love the Talking Tactics podcast hosted by Diana Kibbolds. Every other Tuesday, Day drops a new episode where she focuses on a single tactic that moved the needle on any enrollment metric, from inquiries and booth visitors to apps completed and deposits, even registrations, you name it. The catch? The tactic had to be done with limited resources, either by a single person or a small but mighty team, or limited time, or maybe without a lot of money. The podcast format is fun and engaging, and it's just different from the more traditional 60-minute interview style shows. If you work in enrollment management or marketing, be sure to give Day's show a listen. You can subscribe to the show by visiting podcast.enrollify.org or just search Talking Tactics wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to our Generation AI podcast, where we demystify artificial intelligence in the world of higher education. I am your host, JC Bonilla, joined by the incredible, thoughtful, amazing, and good-looking Artist Kadui. Artist, how you doing, my friend?
Oh, man, this is great. I love this. Hey, JC, how's it going today?
Every time I intro, I'm going to add one adjective to basically pay compliments to your ethos, my friend.
All right. I appreciate it. As long as you don't get those adjectives from ChatGPT, because, it can be...
Oops.
Yeah.
You know what I find very interesting? So I have two writers in my ChatGPT, one that I call JC's Ethos, and the other one's called JC Escritor, which means writer. And literally what happens in one of them kind of knows that it just gives him more adjectives. So it's like the same thing, but it just says the same thing with three variations. I think literally that's what's happening, and in a way it has reverse engineered my style. Artist, you and I got together today and we're planning an episode that, in a way, it builds out of a few conversations we've had in the past. It also brings your thinking as a leader, pioneer on AI, generative AI, and higher education. But yet, it's centered around one of the most interesting news that we heard in the past weeks from Google. So what did we talk about before? We spoke about generative AI disrupting the search experience and how information is discovered. Number two, as a pioneer, there are so many things that higher education hasn't covered, and you're trying to basically close the gap of student engagement, but also bring an AI angle. And three, as I mentioned, what Google said or has announced is that they're going to start probably creating a paywall in a subscription-based model to a totally different experience that maybe we're seeing it with Perplexity and other tools out there that doesn't give me a query that outputs blue links, but really puts in context the power of generative AI as it relates to discovery, search, and my experience as a user as I relate to where the information is at. So that's today's episode, linking these three things. What we spoke about before, how you're pushing the system, and how there's other companies already thinking about that. Is that fair?
That's an amazing summary. If all of our episodes started with that type of summary, I think that would be maybe 10 minutes long because you synthesized it in such an awesome way.
So now I'm getting the compliments. I give you a compliment, you give me a compliment. Is that what happens? Your personal elements are briefing?
I don't know what's going on. It's like a bromance going on here, so we don't know.
It's a love fest. All right, Artie, so let's start with recap to people. What's the problem with search? And you used this word the other day, like, I want to talk about my AI stack, my AI roadmap and whatnot. And then you have this new, really interesting thing happening in Element and how this is kind of completing or connecting the dots.
Yeah. So we've talked about this search experience and how AI is really, really good at knowledge discovery. So knowledge discovery, we ask it a question and we get an answer back, right? And it's really good about that. We experienced it with ChatGPT. However, with ChatGPT, sometimes that it hallucinates. So it doesn't understand those questions, or it doesn't have all the knowledge. So because it hallucinates and makes things up, there is certain tools that were added since the beginning. One of the things that OpenAI partnered with Microsoft is to introduce search and Bing. In order to go ahead, when you ask it a question, you can go ahead in the internet, pull some context for you, and then give you the response in that specific way. A lot of others have followed, Gemini and so on and so forth, have done something very similar. But that is the limitation of these models, is that they're trained, and the P in the GPT stands for right? Pre-trained. So they're trained in certain data, and then they're stuck in that knowledge base, and they don't have any new knowledge. So if you want to ask it questions that are relevant to today, it makes up stuff, right? So we need to attach it to the web, to a source of knowledge, in order for us to give up-to-date discovery of information, to be able to trust it. So what ends up happening is that now there's a really interesting model that has come up, which is very similar to like a combination of Google and ChatGPT. And we have talked about this quite a bit before, Perplexity. Perplexity AI has been one of the players that have come up and has become really, really popular and trying to disrupt the discovery experience, so to speak, and the discovery business model as well, as we talked about business models. So when we look at it, this discovery experience or the knowledge discovery needs a really powerful large language model or brain in order to process that information and give us the intent of those questions. We also need a really good data source of that information to be able to pull that. And what's better than the internet? And we need a really good kind of, a UI and UX around it. So the combination of those three things, that's where Perplexity is. So now that's what companies like OpenAI are trying to replicate, right? But they're approaching it the other way around. That's what Google is trying to replicate with a paywall, because they can't just give that for free because they're not going to monetize something. So we're kind of left in this limbo, so to speak. For our university websites, in a lot of cases, now we have this nice websites. Search might be a good option in there, but sometimes that's not really, really good. So how do we think about our users that are trying to get answers, but our content is not necessarily in ChatGPT, and we want them to come to our sites because we want them to be in that ecosystem, and we want to put the guardrails around that content?
All right. So in the spirit of my brilliant summarizations, here is what you just said. If Google and OpenAI ChatGPT were to have a child, this child looks like Perplexity. That basically gives you the combination of the two experiences. On top of that, what you're saying is now you're going to bring that and you're going to put it on the layer of a university, because there's natural search in a university. Hey, when is the next event? What are the classes I should be taking? I'm a prospective student. How do I apply to your school? I'm a current student. What is the academic calendar for the spring? When do I get my spring break? When are the finals? And so on and so forth. All that is search behavior. And today is just showcasing a la Google. But the next wave is Google ChatGPT have the child. And this is basically what element is worked on.
Correct. So we're working on...
Sexy. Oh, this is super exciting. By the way, everybody, this is the first time I see it. So are you giving me a demo as we go through this?
I am, yeah. I'm actually giving you a little bit of a demo.
All right. So really very exciting. Walk us through these artists.
So what we're doing is we're essentially, if you're familiar with Perplexity, what we're doing is we're taking that and we're using the same knowledge base that we use for our AI assistants and AI chatbot. So if you can get answers from there. However, we're using that same knowledge base that we're scraping on your website to do search on that knowledge. So it's topic based. So right now you can ask it anything and you're getting questions. You're getting also hints on things that you might be needing. And this is curated by the school, by the way, right? So this type of hints or this type of introductory questions are curated by the school. Then when you do that, you get open up in a window very similar to this experience where we're providing you with all of the resources of where we pulled this information from and the summarization of your question, plus the media that can be associated with things like that. We can pull in videos from YouTube channels, because if you give us a YouTube channel as part of your knowledge base, we can now go in and pull all the transcripts and kind of all the information. So when you search for something, we can kind of search those as well, or even images. And then you get your answer, you get all your sources, you also get recommendations or follow-up questions for that as well, right? So you're in the same place.
Very interesting. So, Artis, what you showed me, what you're showing me, right, is first it was a Google-like type of prompt, right, where you enter your query, but there were pre-built queries based on demand, and probably they could be tagged to who the model thinks you are. And then once you enter that query, this is where it's mind-blowing. I get the answer, but in terms of the experience, the UX, everybody, it has this feeling of Wikipedia, the answer, but also a really native web experience with boxes that look pretty and maybe branded and very multimedia. And that's the thing that is very unique as I see it. It's multimedia. I get the graphics on the right-hand side. I get these recommendations. I get the blue links that everyone kind of knows it means I'm going to go somewhere else. But then your journey is non-linear. And that's basically the punchline, that you gave me the answer. And then from here, in a way, as the student or the user, I make my own adventure, pretty much. Very interesting.
Correct. You're essentially following through. And this kind of breaks a lot of conventions right now, because when you go to a school's website, you're going to be faced with, maybe at best, some schools have really good search engines, right? But in a lot of cases, you don't have that. So what we're doing here is that we're embedding this widget, and we're giving you essentially the whole backend, or the whole knowledge, or the whole website is semantically crawled, and we can provide you answers or anything on that website, including videos and images, and provide it in this new experience. So now you don't really need a full website anymore for getting answers for students. You just need a landing page, or maybe they're not going to go away from your homepage. They're just going to stay on your homepage, and they're going to have this experience.
Hey, it's Mallory. Exciting news! I'm hosting the Engage Summit in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, and I'd love to meet you there. Together, we'll dive into the mind of the modern student, what fires them up, how they interact, and what they expect in today's digital age, and how tools like AI help put them in the driver's seat of their education. We have some terrific speakers, including our closing keynote, New York Times best-selling author Jeff Selingo. Sessions will dig into practical ideas and innovative strategies to get your team more student-centered and ready to adopt AI. And many of your favorite Enrollify hosts are presenting too, like Jamie Hunt, Jenny Lee Fowler, and Brian Gross. Use the discount code Enrollify50 for an extra $50 off your registration. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
The last point is very important to, I would say, double click on. This economy, it's a kind of economy of attention, right? So what we know is that relevance is what makes TikTok or social platforms popular, or, worldwide sensations, is that I just don't come get the answer and walk away. I think what you're doing here and what you're building, you're potentially going to be able to do is create an engagement play that hasn't happened, because I just came to the website, very expensive to deploy. I got the answer, and guess what happens? I walked away. Why would I stay? I already know what the event is. I already know what the application process is. I'll walk away. But with this, I just have so many unlimited potentials, permutations of my journey, right? Create my own adventure, that I could literally see I would spend triple, 4x, 5x, who knows, the amount of time, and how the digital resources get reutilized. So brilliant, my friend. This is very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, look, the idea is not new, right? Because Perplexity has a model for this. However, what we're doing is we are confining it, and we're putting a Perplexity on your website. And what's really cool about this is that we're using the same AI stack that we already have to build our AI assistants and to build our AI bots, right? So we're using the same stack, and we're saying now we're able to give you a different experience, more of a discovery experience, rather than you come in and you ask a bot the specific questions and it gives you that answer in as short of a text as possible. We're blowing this up and saying, we're going to give you that answer in a text format. We're going to give you all the links that are associated that we pulled that information from. We're going to give you images, video, other documents. We're also going to kind of make recommendations on, hey, here's some additional topics that you might want to think about, or some follow-up questions. So to your point, we have a guided discovery experience in here that can make it really, really easy for students to kind of find what you want and for you to kind of hook them, right? Just like you said. So let's take an example. Like, what would be a search that you'd go to a school's site for or information?
Who is the best professor in financial engineering?
I know that one.
I knew the answer 10 years ago. I have no idea now. No, but like literally, I'm going into a school, I want to find an academic match, a person. So let's just pretend this is a school of engineering, and I really want to know who's the best professor in electrical engineering. So I have a discipline, I want to know the top academician for that discipline.
Yeah. So the way this would work is because we've loaded in all of those different department websites and perhaps the faculty members' websites as well that are part of the school. We would bring in and showcase a few different names and some of the topics that they talk about in financial engineering, right? So we would say, hey, this is Nassim Taleb or whoever. And then we would, here's some of his research, here's some of the links to this website or articles. Here may be an image of him on the side, and maybe a video that he appears in financial engineering. So, but then the follow-up questions would be, what is financial engineering used for, right? Or can you tell me more about financial engineering in 2024? So those are the follow-up questions and the discovery part that makes it really interesting, because based on the first question and what the results are, we're now saying, you know what? What are the questions or what are the topics that you want to follow up on this particular content that we gave you? So now you're diving deeper.
Yeah. So I just did the query, who is the best professor in financial engineering? I'm using Perplexity, assuming this is going to be launched on a university website. What I'm about to show you, it will be tailored to the content available in your databases. But so it says the sources, and it literally gives you 4 different sources from Columbia, from Princeton, and the different names of who they are, their best professors. And then in the middle section, it's an actual human-like answer of my question. That starts with, there's no definitive best professor in financial engineering based on a given search. However, here are the notable professors, and in a way has built out of the query. On the right-hand side, it gives you pictures, I presume, of these 4 or 5 people. And look at this. It's also saying you can search for more videos or generate images. So I can do a generative AI on graphics. On the bottom, that's the part that you just mentioned, the related. It's telling me what are the top schools in financial engineering, what are the most popular courses, and what career prospects. So these just gave me the answer. And probably if this was a real thing, I would spend half hour at least just going into the different schools, the career options, and forget it. This is a game changer, artist. I'm so happy that you thought this way, and I'm really excited that university are going to be able to benefit from this, because this is it. This is it.
I mean, this is just one of the side projects that we're building. This is considered a side project right now.
Side projects, everybody. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. That's a different conversation about side projects. Everybody, listen to our AI's business models, because we talk about how these side projects need to be paid for by somebody. And I guess the punchline is that there's no side project. Artists, this gets launched, it's mainstream. Do you really think that this could put a hold on to one of the most tiring, ridiculous, and less rewarding experiences in higher education, which is called building your website, maintaining your website? Is this what's at stake here, if played well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you remember, we keep going back to this, but one of the things that we did was spend so much time on the content that we put on our web, not the content, but like the design and how we built different pages and how we organized it. Like all of that goes out the window. The organization part goes out the window. Now we can just build content. We can feed it, Google Docs, Word Docs, and we can build that content and then don't have to worry about the layout or everything else, because that's going to be, ingested as part of the knowledge base and going to be shown in this very different experience.
I was so proud about 20 years ago when we had a dynamic FAQ.
Yes.
How technology development was, innovative back then, 20 years ago, and today look at what you're proposing. My friend, this is really exciting. Everybody, pay attention to these developments of Element, selfish plug. If you do not know what we're talking about, call in your Element rep or artist and check it out. If you're a university already using Element, wait for it. This is going to be transformational. And if you're not in the Element CRM university space, just know that Google and OpenAI, alike ChatGPTs, will have a child, and it promises to rethink how you and I interact with information. And simply put, it's the play of search and attention, and this is where the economy is going. It's about attention. Artists, do you want to sign us off and remind everybody about subscription and all that good stuff?
Well, your summarization skills in this episode have, I think we have a short one because JC has taken all the rambling that we do and kind of really honed it in with summarization. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode, everyone. If you like this, please subscribe and rate us on iTunes or podcast, Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. It means a lot to us. And please write to us and let us know what kind of topics you'd like to talk more about. Hopefully, we'll kind of invite a few more guests here coming soon, and we'll talk a lot more about the topics that you send us. Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed leaders and professionals like you find their next big idea. They feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Brian Gross, and many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.